Oh, hi, I didn't see you there, probably because I was too busy watching this amazing video. It's very informative and inspiring. So, if you're looking for a place to distract yourself from something you should be doing, or inspiration for a future project, you definitely came to the right place. Hi, welcome back. So in this video, I make a dress for a wedding in 3 days using scrap fabric I had lying around. So because I was in such a rush, it's not the most informative video, but if you're looking for something to distract yourself from your worldly responsibilities, you came to the right place. Or if you just kind of need some inspiration for a project, boom, I got you covered. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Glad you're here. But yeah, let's just hop right into making a dress in 3 days.
Alrighty, so I laid out my fabric to kind of see what I had to work with, and I decided I wanted to start with the straps. And to do this, I used my graduation tassel, just so I could prove that I did in fact graduate from high school. And I'm probably never going to use it again. But it was a great way to measure my straps because I really wanted a low back so I could catch a little breeze while I was wearing the dress. And then I took that tassel and laid it down on the fabric and kind of figured out how long I wanted my pieces to be. And you want to make sure you cut out a chunk that you can cut two 1-inch strips out of. I then quickly grabbed my straps and ran out the door and scurried my booty all the way over to the grocery store in order to buy some coffee so that my parents would make me dinner. I also grabbed some apples, but then I saw these cookies and I was like, that's definitely more important than the apples.
I just pulled over to the side of the road because I saw what I thought was a cat, but it was actually a raccoon, and he was very pissed that I pulled over to say hello to him. His name is Randolph, and I think we're gonna be friends. I love you, Randolph. Have a good day.
Once the food was acquired, I then sewed my straps right sides together so they were ready to be turned out, which I hate doing, by the way. Turning straps out is probably one of my worst nightmares. But recently I have found a way to do it that makes me hate myself just a little bit less. You know, I actually add straps to things. Before I just was making everything strapless as a way to kind of cop out the fact that I didn't know how to turn out straps. But now I have no excuse. And this video, by the way, is just me rambling about this whole thing, but my audio was so bad you couldn't really understand it. Anyways, this way of turning out a strap, you're just going to need a sewing machine, a big thick boy needle, and some thread. And you're going to thread that thick boy needle using your sewing machine thread. So you're just going to pull it out of the needle on the sewing machine and put it through this needle. And you're going to want to extend that to the length of your tube, and then you're going to just put that needle all the way through the tube. And this is probably the hardest part because you have to be really careful not to snag your fabric, but after this, you get it to the end and you're going to just sew up the end, and you don't have to do a bunch of stitches, just do like 1 to 3 stitches and then tie it off, and then all you have to do is pull the tube out. So you just tie off that end where you stitched it and you just pull the whole entire tube through. And it's kind of hard to get it over the end, but once you do that, it's literally just, you're free sailing. You're just pulling that tube all the way through and boom, you have a beautiful strap. It's amazing, and I don't know why I never figured out this way sooner. But yeah, I have no excuse for not making things with straps anymore. Alrighty, and then I moved on to making my pattern, and because I wanted to base this entire dress off of how low the straps went in the back, I put the straps on first and the zipper so I could kind of base my entire pattern around those two things. And then I just started drawing on what I wanted my top to look like, and this was kind of like a rough drawing because I do go through later and perfect the pattern using a curve and a ruler. If you want a more in-depth tutorial for pattern making, this is definitely not the place for you. This was all about speed. In the future, though, I will try to be a little more informative and educational. Alrighty, and then I moved on to the pattern perfecting station, a place where I straighten out all my lines and my curves and make them look a little bit prettier, because on the form I just kind of slap some things on and hope for the best. So for this, if you want to do this, you're going to need a curve ruler, which I got mine on Amazon for $8 in a 2-pack, which was amazing and I love it, and then a regular ruler and just a fabric marker or a Sharpie, depending on how you feel that day. And you're just going to use the curve to make all of your curves just like a natural curve. That's what it's for. Man, if I say curve one more time, I'm going to lose it. And then you're going to use your ruler to just straighten out all your lines so they're not all wonky. So I just straightened out all my pattern pieces and made sure they weren't misbehaving anymore. And then I added seam allowance. I added about a 1/2 inch because I like to add my boning to my seam allowance. So I wanted a good amount of seam allowance. And then I cut out all my pieces and I was ready to cut my pattern. I then laid out my fabric and realized I did not have as much as I thought I did, so it became a really intense game of Tetris, trying to figure out how I could fit all the pieces onto the thing and still have room for the skirt. I also do this thing where I like to fold the fabric over like 4 times, and then I can cut it, and I have 4 pieces instead of like 2 or 1. But it honestly makes the game of Tetris much more difficult because I have to try to figure out how to fold everything over. Then, to make the skirt, I used the remaining fabric, which happened to be one gigantic rectangular shape, and I split it into 2 semi-less big rectangular shapes. They were a little uneven, so I went ahead and trimmed the edges to try to make semi-rectangular shapes, and I used my graduation tassel. Then, once I had 2 decently similar rectangles, I began to draw out my pattern, and this is the easiest pattern in the entire world. All you have to do is draw 2 rectangles with ears sticking out. Basically, you want it to look just like the guy from Mad TV. The one that, like, haunted everyone's childhood. Yeah, that's it. It's so simple, and you're just going to do that to one side and then flip it over, and so you can do it to the other side and just make it as even as possible. And this is just going to make sure that we have pockets, because you cannot go to a wedding without pockets. I refuse to live that life. Then I just sewed those 2 faces together, right sides together, up each of the sides, and made sure I included the pockets so those were part of it, because that's very important.
At this point, it was like 3 in the morning. I was kind of losing it, but it's okay. I still had the energy to bind the entire top of my skirt, so I just did about a 1-inch stitch around the entire thing using a needle and a thread, because I tried using my machine, but it really did not gather it the way I wanted to, so I decided to hand stitch it, and it worked really nicely. And then after I was finished basting, I just grabbed the 2 end threads and I gathered the entire skirt together. And then to make sure those gathers stayed in place the way I wanted them to, I measured it on myself to make sure that the waist was the right size, and then I went ahead and just sewed down those gathers.
And because I was too lazy to look for one of my 50 pairs of scissors, I used a butter knife to cut my thread, and I'm going to rate it a 2 out of 10 because it sucked. And after the gathers were sewed down, I went ahead and cut the slit in the back for my zipper, and I tried it on the dress form to make sure that that was centered, and it was. And now we take a brief but very important intermission where I bleach my hair. And I ordered this bleach online, but look how big that bottle is. I thought it was just a normal sized bottle, but I got it in and I was like, dang, this is like for an entire household. So stay tuned for me convincing my family that they also need to bleach their hair. Anyways, yeah, I mixed my powder with my developer. I'm not a professional, so do not do what I'm doing in this video, probably, because I don't know what I'm doing. And then I used these roofing gloves because I didn't have any like hairdresser gloves, and they did not work very well because they have a bunch of like grips on them, so they kind of just kept ripping my hair out, but I continue to use them, and I'm still using them to this day because I just am too lazy to get any other gloves. So yeah, I put the bleach on, I put it in a little trashy bag, and let it sit for a while.
What's up? So my hair looks very orange. I guess it's more like yellow. It's like a yellowy orange. So we got a lot of colors happening. We got like yellowy orange, then we got pink, and then we got blonde at the bottom. So a chambray. But you know, I did the best I could. And you know what they say when you try your best and you don't succeed? Give up. Just kidding. I'm just gonna like get more pink dye at some point and do that. Okay, so pink fixes everything. So we're just gonna put some pink on top of it, and bada bing, bada boom, we are done. So yeah, back to the dress. Right now I'm working on pinning the bodice, and then I'm gonna sew it. So you should have a bunch of pieces at this point. And so you're gonna pin them all together, and you're gonna sew them. Be sure to keep your seam allowance, because if you don't, there will be no space for you to get boned on your bodice to get boned. Alright.
Oh, and with that, I'm going to go ahead and take over the voiceover again. So I went ahead and pinned my bodice together, and then I sewed it and made it look amazing. But after that, I definitely got very distracted for the next 17 hours and did things that were unrelated. Here I am doing the Thriller dance for some reason, which, by the way, I do not know. But I was very confident that I did in this moment, so many apologies. I understand. This is wrong. This is not correct.
I'm unbelieving that you're in love with me. My head is the exact same size as 4 Monster cans. Do that with that which... And if I don't finish it, then I'm going to be naked. And like, us... I have no motivation to do any of it. I just really don't. Okay, but we need to. We gotta do it. So I'm gonna make a pot of coffee.
After many hours of distracting myself, I finally got back down to doing the dress, and I decided to iron out my seams, and I ironed them so they're all facing the middle. So all the ones on the left are going towards the right, and all the ones on the right are going towards the left. Like so. So I did decide to add the pink to fix all of my problems, and while I was letting it marinate, I decided to sew my two tops together, so I just laid them down right sides together, and I made sure to add my straps in between those two, so it had a really nice clean finish on the straps once I sewed them together.
And after sewing those two together, I decided that it was bone time. Just kidding, I'm not a 12-year-old boy. Anyways, I decided to make my boning channels just on one side of my top. I chose the front, and I just sewed down the seam allowance to make that into its own little channel, and then I just be able to put my boning inside.
This is kind of hard to see, but I wanted to add some more boning to the center to kind of give it a cool shape, so I used a ruler and a fabric marker to draw some lines. And then I'm going to sew these little channels real quick. And boom, it's sewed.
Wow, I really thought I was going to do a cool action shot, but I didn't film a shot after that. Anyways, I then went ahead and cut my boning to the right size and made sure to round out the edges and went ahead and put those right on in little channels. After that, I attached my zipper, and I always make my tops bigger so it's easier for me to adjust the size using the zipper, so that's why there's so much extra fabric on the end of it. And once I got that measured out and fitting beautifully, it was time to join the two nations. After years of being apart, I put the bottom and the top right sides together, and I pinned all around. And be very careful if you do this to keep the zipper slit in line with the zipper. I then went ahead and sewed those two pieces together, and I attached the bottom part to the zipper, and it looked great. This is me on the day of. I was in a frantic rage. I didn't film a lot, but I did add the hem and also make myself a matching face mask, which decided to break right as I was leaving. So I had to glue it together using my gum. So I had gum on my face all night. It was really fun. But yeah, I'm not mad with how everything turned out. The face mask is the worst part though, and I hate it, and I hate looking at it. It's okay, I guess. Safety always comes first. But yeah, this is how it ended up turning out. I know the hem is a little rushed and a little crook, but it's okay. Most people don't notice that, except for me. It's gonna haunt me for the rest of my life. But other than that, I love the way it turned out. I love that it has pockets. That was super helpful, so I could keep extra gum in there just in case my face mask broke again. You know, you gotta be prepared for every situation.